suffering from burnout. So I'm going to give you some skills on what you can do in order to understand it. So the first thing, so welcome back, everybody. So today we're going to be looking at what you can do, some of the skills that you can do when you suffering from burnout. And also, this is not just about when I am burnt out, but this is about how can I be proactive about not getting to burnout. Okay, so this what we call the circle of influence. Okay, and the circle of influence was designed, I don't know if he designed it, but it's definitely something that Stephen Covey talks about in 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And in this book, he talks about that we have this circle of concern. Okay, and the circle of concern is when we look at the things within our circle of concern, we can see that there are some things over which we have no real control and some things that we have got control over. So if we think about things that we don't, I will come to this, like what are some of the examples, okay? So some of the things that we have no control over how other people react to us. So if my husband wakes up in a bad mood, I have no control over that. But what I have got control over is how I respond to him when he is in a bad mood. Because if he wakes up and he's grumpy and he's like, wah, 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 and I go wah, 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 back, and the next thing we're having a big fight, then that's not going to be helpful. But if he wakes up and he's like, wah, 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 and I'm like, shame, babe, you look like you're feeling still a bit tired or you're a bit stressed. Is there anything I can help you with? That I can control. So I have control over the way I respond to any situation, okay? And that is about your circle of influence. So you see, here's your circle of concern. It's an example. I have no control over the political situation. I have no control over what's happening in the economics. I had no control over the health system. COVID came into play. COVID turned the whole world on its head. I had no control. I had no control over lockdown and things like that. So we have to think about what we have no control over, because it's often in those times we feel like we've got no control. But we're not. That's not true. We do have control. So we've got to think about this circle of influence. And the circle of influence are the things that we can do something about. And things like we can change our habits, like the way we think, the way we behave. We can change our methods of influence. How do we influence the world? How do we impact? Do we want to leave a mark, or do we want to leave a stain when we die one day? I want to leave a mark on the world. I want to be able to say, sure, I made a difference in people's lives because I maybe taught them skills that maybe they wouldn't have had under normal circumstances. So you can have that as what's in your control. You can also change your attitude towards the problems over which you have no control. Like, for instance, you can accept certain problems, or you can learn to live with them, or you can learn to manage them effectively. There's a saying in Alcoholics Anonymous. It says, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change the things I can, and have the wisdom to know the difference. Because sometimes we don't know the difference. We want to control everything. But sometimes we've got to know, like, what can we influence, what can we control, and what can't we control. And sometimes just our attitude towards that makes a big difference. So let's look at this deeper, okay, to try and understand. Because you've got your circle of control, your circle of influence, and your circle of concern. So we've looked at the circle of influence, we looked at the circle of concern. Now let's look at the circle of control. So the inner circle is called the circle of control, And it's about those circumstances or issues or problems that that we have direct control over. So this includes problems involving our own behavior and thoughts. And although we don't have the power to control all of the thoughts that come into our minds, we do have the power to choose whether or not we're going to act on them and allow them to ruminate. Ruminate means it's going to go around and around and around and around in our head. I mean, you can think about that. How many times does something happen, like your friend shouted at you? Like, why did the friend shout at me? Why do you people always shout at me? People don't like me. People, and then you go around and around and around in your head. Did you want to ask something? Sorry, I can't see your name. Priyansha, do you want to ask something? Your hand is up.
Yes, ma'am. I want to ask a question.
Okay, go for it.
My question is, we are just student of class 6th or 7th. So sometimes we feel like not studying or doing nothing. Is it also a symptom of burnout?
Okay, can we just pause that question for the end? Priyansha, will you just ask me that question at the end? Because I'm going to make another time for you to ask a whole lot of questions right at the end. Will you keep that question for me? Give me a thumbs up.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. Okay, so thoughts will come and go, but when we choose to linger on thoughts that are no good for us and create, sometimes we create mountains out of molehills. So it'll be a small problem, but we end up making it bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So like Ma'am was saying earlier, sometimes you fail, you get one question wrong, one question on your paper. I see this with my students. It's not even going to be 1% of their mark. Okay, it might be like 25% of 1%, so 0.25% of their mark, and they're having a catastrophe. They're like, oh my goodness, I'm not going to get into masters. My whole life is never going to work. And I'm like, what are you doing? It was one question. Just bring it down, because you now it's like everything is wrong. The whole world is against them, and it's not true. So we have to look at the circle of control. What have I got control over? Okay, so let's have a look at how this plays out. So on this side, what do we say? It's a circle of concern. This is your circle of concern. Number 2 is your circle of influence, and number 1 is your circle of control. So what don't we have control over? Things like if your transport is on time, your past decisions and behavior. They're in the past for a reason. You can't go back and change that. Okay, the weather, the world peace, threat of war, governments, death. You can see with pandemic now, we thought everybody's vaccinated and everyone's well, and people still died and people still got sick. So we've got to be aware of that. All of these things we can add. I'm sure you can even add to it yourself, because these things are quite big. But even in your world, you've got no control over how your teacher treats you, or how your friend, if your friend comes to school in a bad mood and starts taking it out on you. You've got no control over what's in the exam paper. Your teacher's going to set that exam paper, but you've got control over how much you go in here, what's in your control. You've got control over how much you study for that exam paper to prepare you for that exam paper. Okay, so that's what you don't have control over. Then this is what's in your influence. So you can maybe influence it, but you cannot control it. Okay, so you can make a difference by saying, you can influence other people's thoughts by, let's say, asking them about that. I'm interested to hear, what are your thoughts about that? And have you thought about it maybe from this perspective? And so I can influence people's thoughts by the way I have a conversation with them. I can influence my productivity at work, in your case at school, maybe making sure that I get a lot of rest and I eat well and I pay attention in class and I ask good questions that the teachers can help me, that sort of thing. I can make an influence about my reputation. If you see me as a psychologist in your community, but I'm out there and I'm partying and I'm getting drunk and I'm having sex with everybody that I can have sex with, do you think you're going to want to come and share your problems with me? Probably not. So I need to think about my reputation, and I've got to make sure that when you come to me, you feel safe. And my position, the person I am and everything I am, you feel safe enough to share your problems with. But you're not going to come there and I'm like lying there like, hey man, and I'm a bit drunk and things like that. You're not going to feel safe then. So I can have an influence over my reputation and the way that I conduct myself. Okay, so that's what I can influence. Now we look at your control. Now, some of you will disagree with me. It's like, ma'am, I can't control my thoughts. Oh my goodness, they just come into my head and they go, come in. Every time I think, okay, no, don't think that, then I keep thinking that. But that's not necessarily true, because sometimes we tell ourselves a story, and that story that we're telling ourselves, that starts to influence the way we understand the world. That influences our thoughts, our feelings, and our behavior. So if I say my story I'm telling myself is, nobody likes me, they all think that I'm a horrible person, and I'm actually going to make a complete fool of myself when I come and talk to the students now. They're all going to laugh at me. Then I might not want to be here. I might not want to be sharing this information with you, because that's the story I'm telling myself, and my anxiety goes up and I'm like, sorry, I have to cancel. I can't make today. And you be like, oh, we were looking so forward to Burnout. But I told myself a story that you guys didn't like me. And that story became real for me. And so if I let that story control my life, I would be like, okay, I'm just going to stay in my little home. I'm never going to go out. I'm never going to engage with anybody. I'm never going to work and do this sort of thing. So I need to be aware of that story that I'm telling myself and see how is that influencing, how is that controlling the way that I think, how I behave, what words I use. Because if I'm telling my story that I'm not good enough, I'm going to be quite defensive. You're going to be like, hi, do you want to come to my house for come and hang out a bit at my house? And I'm going to, why do you want me to come? Why? Who's going to be there? Like, why? Like, I'll give an attitude. And if that's because the story I'm telling myself is no one likes me and no one's going to invite me to their house. So I've got to be aware of that story. And that story then is going to influence all the things that I can control here. My actions, my behavior, my reactions. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. So you can be tired and you can be like snappy, or you can go, I'm sorry, I'm so tired at the moment. I'm not thinking straight. And if I snap at you, please don't take it personally, because I'm not even in my right mind at the moment. I really just need to put my head down and go and have a little nap. So then that person knows, okay, she's tired. That's why she's doing that. It's not in her character. So you can preempt them. You can help them understand your attitude, your mood, and that sort of thing. Does that make sense? So what that means, okay, for you, is what we want to do is we want to make this circle of control bigger. So we want to move it out. We want to make it bigger. You know that song, Make the Circle Bigger. We want to make the circle bigger. It's not the greatest song to bring into you, I'm sorry. But we want to make the circle of influence and control. So the control will go bigger. We want to The more areas that we can control, we push out, which will influence, will impact the circle of influence. And the more we push out the circle of influence, you notice that the outer circle, the stuff that we've got no control over, what is happening to it? It's getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So when we were in COVID, this circle of concern was huge. We felt tiny, like this, tiny, because it felt like everything was taken away from us. And now we need to go take our voices back, and we got to go, look, what can I control? What can I influence? How can I look at the story that I'm telling myself? Like earlier, one of you was saying that, what about that person who wants to like support their family and make sure that maybe the story they tell themselves is, I can't ask for help because nobody's there to help and I have to do it myself. I've got to keep my family safe. Maybe that's the story that they're telling themselves, but that story is busy slowly but surely killing them, because they don't think they deserve regular breaks. They don't deserve that. Maybe think that they deserve to just be happy as well. And they think that maybe there's not enough in the world. So now I've got to make sure I kill myself to support my family. And that's it doesn't come from a place of being horrible. That comes from love. But we need to also not love so much that we forget to put ourselves in the equation. There needs to be a balance at the end of the day. So the circle of influence is looking at myself first, me in the center, that little dot in the center. How can I make that circle bigger, which is then going to push out the circle of influence, which is then going to push out the circle of concern. Okay, so Michelle, I don't understand. How does this help me now? Well, it makes us feel less overwhelmed. And it makes us feel like what we can control, and what we can't control, we just got to leave. We've got to leave it. We've got to observe it. Because sometimes, I mean, my husband is someone, he makes plans for 20 things. He gets so scared. He's like, if that happens, I'm going to do this. If this happened, and I said, do you know what, Gary? You waste so much time and energy worrying about stuff that may never happen. So it's in the circle of concern, he's worried about all the things that can go wrong in the circle of concern. I said, why don't you just build up who you are, develop your own resources, and then when this stuff happens, you go and look in yourself for your resources, and you pull it out and you use that to cope with the situation. And then you don't have to be overwhelmed all the time. And that's where you start to burn out, because you worry, and then you start to burn out. Okay, so that's the one way. The other way, somebody was saying, can you help me with my goal, like my work? How can I be better at making my work better? And we need to work smarter. Okay, SMART stands, it's an acronym, SMART: specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timeous. So our goals need to be smart. Okay, so what does that mean? It means that specific goals. We can't just say, I want to be a doctor one day, or I want to be a surgeon. Well, I've got to think about, how do I get there? So many students come to me and they go, Michelle, I want to be a psychologist. Can you make me a psychologist? I'm like, okay, well, have you thought about what you have to do to become a psychologist? And they're like, I have no idea. And I was like, okay, well, maybe you got to think about the specific things that need to happen and see them as stepping stones. You don't just overnight wave a magic wand and become a psychologist. There are specific stepping stones that you've got to get to in order to reach the top there. So we've got to think about, what do those stepping stones look like? So who is involved to help my goal, to make my goal happen? Who do I need to involve? What do I need to accomplish? So be specific. If I want to be a psychologist, a lot of the students think, I've just got to get good marks. I said, no, that's not true. You've got to know yourself. Have you been to therapy and discovered who you are? Have you been involved in your community? Have you ever actually counseled anybody? They go, no. I'm like, how are you going to go into masters and start counseling people if you've never ever done counseling in your life? It doesn't make sense. Then, oh, okay. So slowly but surely they start to formulate what it means, what they need, what skills they need in order to become a psychologist. So you've got to think about your career or your daily goals. And like, by this time, I want to get an A for maths. How does that look? What does that look like? What do I need to do? What little stepping stones do I have to put in place in order to achieve that goal? Because I can't wake up the night before and start studying and think I'm going to get an A. Or some of you probably can because you're so clever, but I can't do that. Okay, and then where will you complete the goal? Like, what is the end? How will you know when you've arrived? Let's say you want to go study. Where are you going to go study? Have you gone to go look in that university what degree you want to do and what specifically do you need in order to get into that degree? Because some people, they say, I want to study psychology. I've got to get a good mark in maths. And I'm like, do you realize that you don't actually need to have full maths to become a psychologist? You actually can do English, and you can do maths will definitely help, but it doesn't have to be full your higher grade maths. You can just actually get a normal mark for maths and you'll still be fine. And they're like, really? I didn't know this. I'm like, yeah, because you didn't go to the university to go look at what subjects you need to take in order for you to be good at whatever it is you're wanting to do. So work that way. Go and look at where you want to be. Go have conversations one day with people who are in the careers that you want to do. Go ask them questions. Where did you study? What kind of marks did you get at school? Was there anything else I had to do in order to get to become this job that I want to become? And go and explore, go gather information so that you can use all that information to make your goals specific. Okay, whatever it is. I'm using careers now, but it could be anything that you want to do. Then you've got to make it measurable. So you've got to put a timeline in there. You can't say, one day I want to be able to be a peer helper. A peer helper is like somebody who goes and identifies peers in stress and brings them to the counselor to help in order for them to help. Because you guys can help each other. You're the eyes and ears on the ground. You see the people are struggling. The counselor doesn't always see that because people hide and put masks on to pretend they're okay. And then you say, okay, one day I'm going to be a peer helper. Well, when? When do you want to do this? Do you want to do it by the time you're 16 or 18? Or when do you want to do it? So make your goals measurable. One day I want to be, a pilot. When? Make a timeline and see how you want to get there. Okay, and the timeline is not just the end goal, but all the things you've got to do in order to get there is all part of your timeline. And then make sure the goal is attainable. I've heard how many people come in here and they want to be doctors. And I'm like, are you good at science? No. Are you taking biology? No. How's your maths? I'm not good at maths. Okay. How are you going to become a doctor? Because you have to have those subjects. You can't not have maths and science. You can't do business and then think you're going to get into becoming a doctor. So understand match your abilities to your goal. Okay, that's often where burnout comes in. We have these unrealistic goals out there which we haven't got a hope in hell in trying to get to, but we kill ourselves in order to try and get there. And then when we fall short, we're like, you see, I'm a failure. No, I'm never going to get anywhere in life. No, if you're not a failure, you just didn't put in an attainable goal. And that's why you ended up killing yourself like that. Okay, and then make it relevant. Okay, so relevant goals focus on what you truly desire. If you hate blood, don't become a doctor, because that's what you're going to be looking at all the time. If you don't like to see pets, animals that are in distress, then don't be a vet, because you're going to see that all the time and it's going to traumatize you. So try and, choose goals, choose wherever you want to be in your life. Make sure that it matches who you are as a person. Because sometimes your father or your mother will come say, you are going to be an accountant because your uncle's an accountant and your auntie's this and that, and in accounting. And you're like, but I don't even like accounting. I don't want to be an accountant. I want to be something else. I want to be a psychologist. And they're like, no, there's no money in psychology. That's not true. Okay, so you need to make sure that your goals are relevant to who you are. And then timeous. Okay, so timeous means that you need to not just put a time on the long-term goal, but put time on the small goals as well. By Monday, I'm going to put a study schedule together. By Tuesday, I'm going to start studying maths. By Wednesday, I'm going to do this. So you put little goals, little goals. That's how we get to the goals. We think sometimes, oh, I want to be this, and we're going to take this big leap to the goal. No, we've got to take little steps all the way through, and eventually we get to our goals. Okay, so that is about SMART goals. So first was the circle of influence. Second was first was the iceberg. Second was the circle of influence. Third was make your goals SMART. And now fourth, I'm going to teach you a very big thing. This one is going to be break your brain a bit. Okay, so I'm going to have hundreds of you going, Michelle, which are the points? Which are this? What is the, help me understand. So I just want you to follow me and trust me on this one, okay? You're going to think I'm weird. You're going to think, oh, this lady's lost her mind. I don't know what the people were thought about bringing her to this. But this technique I'm going to teach you is so good with anxiety. How many of you go into an exam and you're panicking and your heart's racing and you can't think and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to fail. And you go blank. You're looking at the paper and you're like, I can't remember this. I don't even know what I studied now. Is this, oh my goodness. And then you start having a panic in the exam. I actually had students, some of them I had to write letters in because they couldn't even go into the big exam venue because just sitting with all the children would make them anxious. So they had to go and sit on their own quietly so they could write because they got so anxious that they couldn't actually even write their name. So this is what happens. So anxiety, remember, if you worry all the time, it can also cause burnout. So I'm going to teach you two methods that you can do when you're feeling stressed, okay? The one is a little more easy to get your head around. So the first thing you want to do is you want to breathe. So we want to stop, okay? Now you're going to be like, what do you mean stop, Michelle? Okay, STOP is another acronym. Okay, here we go. I know STOP doesn't normally have two P's, but we're going to put two P's in STOP, okay? Stop, right? So when you are very anxious, this is your part of your brain. We call it the limbic system. And it's always, yeah, I'm going to fail. My parents are going to kill me. And it's just anxious. It's anxious all the time. What if I don't know that? What if I get this wrong? What if this? And it's just it's like the hamster on the wheel. It's going around and around and around. Okay. So this, I have to say stop. And stop means I put in I take the emotions in control and I engage my brain. Now I'm more rational. I can still take my feelings into consideration, but I need to engage my brain so I can think clearly. So how do we get there? So first of all, I say stop. Okay. So you must stop what you're doing and take a breath. Now, a breath doesn't mean, okay, you do a breathing square. And a breathing square, think of a breathing square like this, okay, a square. So we're going to go, let's breathe in, 2, 3, 4, and out. 2, 3, 4, and in and out. Come do it with me. And in, hold, and out. 2, 3, 4, and in, hold, and out. 2, 3, 4. Can you see how that just has a way of calming you straight away? Because what you don't realize is when you stress, you actually hold your breath. You don't even realize that you're doing it, but you actually hold your breath. So this is stop, take a breath. Now, when we stop and take a breath, we're actually giving the brain a chance to go back offline and the brain online. Okay, so we engage the brain. Now, with the brain intact, I can look around. I can observe. Okay, so what am I thinking? I'm thinking I'm going to fail. Am I being realistic about what I'm thinking? No, because I really studied hard for this exam. What am I reacting to? Well, I'm watching my friend over there and she's so clever and she's freaking out that she's going to fail. And if she's freaking out that she's going to fail, then I'm definitely going to fail because she's more clever than what I am. Okay. Where am I feeling it in my body? Well, my heart is going fast and I'm battling to swallow and I've got a headache and I can't breathe properly. So you just observe. You're looking and observing. By just taking your brain, by you observing, your brain, you can't as a person observe and be anxious at the same time. As soon as you start to observe, your anxiety goes down like this. It's just, it's a scientific thing. It's not even just a me thing. Then we're going to pull back. Now we're going to take, you know, on Google Maps, you Google out and you see, you can Google in, you can zoom in and you see your house and the front door there, but then you zoom out and you start to see your road, and then you zoom out, you see your town, zoom out, you see your continent, zoom out, you see the world. So I'm asking you to zoom out, pull back, zoom out, put things in perspective, start to see the bigger picture. Ask yourself, is this a fact or is just this my opinion that I'm going to fail? Because I've studied, I have asked questions, I've done everything that I can. I've made mind maps, I've done everything that I can to make sure I'm going to be successful. So is this some nonsense that's coming into my ears? And how would, if I was to go and tell my friend, if a friend was suffering from this and I was going to help my friend, what would I be telling my friend? Would I be telling them that they're a failure? Would I tell them that they're going to fail, that they're worthless, that they may as well not even go to the exam because they're not even going to do well? No, of course not, you wouldn't. You'd be like encouraging them. So how can I do that to myself? How can I encourage myself? How can I change that story that I'm telling in my head? How can I change that story to make it more positive and more encouraging? And then you're going to practice. We're going to proceed and you're going to, instead of reacting, like reacting, we're going to proceed. We're going to respond to where we're at. So we're going to choose the way that's the best interest for us and for others or the situation. Does that make sense? So you're going to get, every time, stop and get the brain back online. And then observe, look around. And sometimes I even use a little technique called, we call it the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. If I'm battling, if I'm really anxious, I go, name 5 things I can see, 4 things that I can hear, 3 things that I can smell, 2 things that I can touch, and 1 thing that I can taste. And just going into that 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 like that, straight away my anxiety goes down and I can bring my brain back online. Okay, so that's the one thing, that's one of the, another technique that you can do. So the whole idea is you want to become more mindful about what you do. Okay. You want to bring you don't want to, because if you're anxious, you're running way ahead. And if you're depressed, you're living in the past. So we want to live here in the now. And we want to just deal with whatever is coming our way as we are living in the now. Okay. And then also make sure that the cause of your symptoms, that you may be having, let's say if you're feeling tired or you're depressed or something like that, make sure, like we were saying earlier, that it is burnout and not some other psychological condition. So maybe you're suffering from anxiety, and anxiety is causing you because you're worrying all the time. You're like that hamster on the wheel. So make sure that we maybe look at anxiety, not just burnout, because it's maybe the anxiety that's causing you to become burns out. Like also we call it PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. You might have gone through a big trauma where somebody really got hurt or died, or there was a threat of harm or something like that, and your body may be responding like this because you're actually suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. So we got to identify what is burnout and what is a psychological condition that you might be going through. And then, as I said to you before, you might got to find the source. So if you've got a rigorous academic schedule or work schedule, you need to identify whether they're unrealistic, or goals and expectations are unrealistic, like for instance trying to do it in one day. Also dealing with relationship problems. If they're going in a cycle like this, try and find some help. People can help you to deal with toxic situations, because sometimes when you're in a toxic situation, people will make you believe things that aren't reality, and then you think they are reality. It's called gaslighting. So we don't want people to gaslight you. We want you to think about, did I say that, or did that person say that I say that? And what impact is that having on me? Because that can cause a lot of stress inside of you when you're in a toxic relationship or you're fighting with someone all the time. That can cause a lot of stress on you, which would then cause burnout in the end. And then also just remember, caring for a loved one with a serious chronic mental health or physical health condition can also deplete your resources, can also cause burnout at the end of the day. Okay, so what other tools can I use? This is the big one. I don't know if any of you have heard about this technique. It's called emotional freedom technique. And believe this or not, this technique was designed by an engineer called Gary Craig. Okay, not a psychologist. I found that quite interesting. And he's done, you can go to YouTube and go call up Gary Craig, search Gary Craig emotional freedom technique, and you'll see lots of videos on how he speaks about this. So what is this? So this treatment basically is based on energy psychology. So our body is full of energy and little points. We call them pressure points. You know, if you've got a headache, you go like this and you massage your temples. And so our whole body, you can see with the Eastern way of doing things, you'll have your pressure points that you press on, and they release stress. We do it with acupuncture. We can do it with different forms of energy medicine, that they move energy around. But this one, we don't put needles in our body, thank goodness. We use tapping on our body. Okay. And so in EFT, we call it EFT, emotional freedom technique. It works by tapping on the paths that have life energy. We call life energy in Chinese, we call it your qi. Okay, so it works on your qi, and it's basically meridians that give you energy. So often the imbalance of energy is caused because one part of your meridians, so somewhere, one of your points in your parts of your body, it could be your heart, it could be your throat, somewhere is blocked. Okay, and so you want to be able to unblock it, and you want to be able to restore the energy and the flow of energy back into your body. Okay. So what it can help with? Can you believe it? It can help with all of these things: stress, headaches, physical pain, phobia, depression, fear, negative thoughts, weight loss, cravings, nervousness, social anxiety, not being able to sleep, releasing trauma from your body. All of these things it can help you with. Okay. I used to work with horses in therapy, and the horses we would work on the ground with the horses. It's called equine therapy. And so the horses we would do exercises, and based on the reaction of the horse, we would then feed that back into the process, and we would ask the person, I see the horse did this. How do you make sense of that? And it's very powerful. It's actually what you would do in talk therapy in 5 sessions, you can get in 1 session with equine therapy. But you can just imagine at the end of the therapy, the horses were in hyper alert because they've taken all that person's stuff onto themselves. And I used to go and tap the horses, and they were all like this to start off with. And by the time I was finished tapping them, their heads were right down, and they were like so relaxed. So the whole thing that it does, this I see it like this. This is a stream. You can't see it's a stream because it's so blocked up with rocks and everything like that. But if you think of a stream, this is not what a stream should look like. It should be gushing. It should be full of energy. But instead, it's like trickling, and it doesn't even look like it's a real stream. You're like, is this a pile of rocks, or what is this really? So the idea is we want the stream to flow like this. Okay, this is how your energy should be flowing through. You should feel full of life and full of joy and full of positive energy, and you can go out into the world and make a difference. But most of us are operating, like this, which is very sad, because I don't think that streams were made to look like that. So if you look, all those rocks, if we start to take away the rocks, eventually it's going to make more space for the river to gush, and maybe it starts to look like this as the water is able to flow through more readily. So in this EFT session that I'm going to do, we are going to focus on one rock. Okay, I can't fix everything overnight, so we're going to just do one thing today. Okay, you can choose what that one thing is, but we're going to just remove one thing today. So think of your iceberg. Remember the iceberg? I can't go back to it now, but remember the iceberg underneath the water. Where's the iceberg? There it is. So what is underneath here that you maybe want to move today? Maybe it's even something on top. Maybe the anger, maybe your procrastination. Could be anything. So we got to think about, like, what is causing all of that to happen? What's going on underneath the iceberg? Okay. So how do we do this? So I always think of it as a tree. Like, I think of, this is my branch, the branch of the tree, and here, this is the stem of the tree, and this is the branches. Okay. And so all our things that we want to tap on, they may be, you can see how many branches is on the thing here. Okay, it's full of different things that we want to collapse. So as I'm tapping on one thing, I collapse that, collapse it, collapse it, collapse it, collapse it, and eventually I can collapse the tree. Okay, it sounds terrible to cut down the tree, but it's not about the tree. It's about all the problems, all the things that are blocking us up, that are stopping us from accessing who we are today, who we should be. You think about it, your parents' problems, your family's problems, your community's problems, your dreams and goals, your pressure at school, your friends' problems, like the challenges you have in relationships. There's a lot of stuff. I mean, I'm exhausted just thinking about it. So we want to think about those things. And the nice thing about this is you guys are still teenagers. So you at the beginning of your life, imagine when I start tapping, my tree is like 3 times the size of this. So it's a lot of tapping I've got to do. But you guys, you can start this skill from now, and you can just keep it going all the time, So these are the points. Okay, so let's start. We won't start on the head because I used that last. But we start here, right? All come point with me. So where your eyebrow starts, it's right in there at the beginning of your eyebrow. Can you tap with me? It means take your finger and put it to your eye. All of you guys, I'm watching you on the screen. Put your finger to your, thank you. Okay. And you just tap lightly. Okay. That's it. And then the next one is in your temples. Okay. So you know where you go in that little dent in your temples? We're going to tap there. Okay. Then we're going to feel the bone of your eye socket. You can feel this bone here under your eye socket. And if you go by your nose here, okay, you can feel it. It might make your nose run when you tap on it. But sometimes my eyes get itchy and my nose wants to run when I tap on it. Okay. And then under your nose. Okay. So in this groove of your nose, you're tapping under your nose. Okay. And then in the groove of your chin. This is the one that I was telling you, you're going to think I'm crazy. Okay. Until you try it. And then we go into your collarbone. Your collarbone is this bone around your neck here. You just put your hand here, you can feel your collarbone. Okay. We want to put it right in by our throat. We want to bring it in there. You can actually, as you're tapping it, you can actually feel it's like an energy that comes up in this area. Okay. And then for the boys, you go under your armpit. Okay, and your arm and your armpit. And for the girls, you go on your bra strap. So right here on your bra strap. Okay, there's this point that's in alignment to your bra strap. Okay, and then we call this the karate chop. So when we're just talking, you're doing a karate chop. Okay, and then last is your head. It's in a circle around the top of your head. Okay. Are you guys interested in doing a demonstration of this? Are you in a safe space where you can do that, or would you be embarrassed? Because I want to actually do a demonstration with you so that you can feel what it's like to go through this. Okay, so those of you who can, what I'm going to ask you to do is I'm going to ask you to just close your eyes for a minute. You can switch your camera off if you want to. If you feel embarrassed, that's fine. I don't mind. I'm going to keep my camera on. You're going to just close your eyes for a minute and think about the breathing square. We want to go in through our nose. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4, and out. 2, 3, 4. Do another one. In through your nose and out through your mouth. And another one. 2, 3, 4, and out through your mouth. I just want you to take a moment to just bring your mind into where we are. You can keep your eyes closed, and I want you to just think about like your body on the chair. I want you to really focus on feeling what it's like to sit on your chair. I want you to start to feel the air on your skin. Just feel how it touches your skin. And as you are doing that, I want you to, you'll find you get thoughts in your head, or you worry people are watching you or something. I want you to just acknowledge that thought. I see you, I hear you, and just release it out into the universe. And just every time it comes up, you just release it into the universe. Now I want you to concentrate on the sounds in the room. Really be aware of what is going on around you. Maybe you've got headphones in and you can even just listen to what sounds you hear with the headphones. Maybe you hear your breathing. And now I want you to extend your hearing outside of the room. And now I want you to bring your focus into your body. And I want you to think, just remember how we observed what's going on in our body. And I want you to start to feel what emotion is coming up for you in your body. Think about what you've been dealing with lately. Maybe you've had something that you're feeling very anxious about, or maybe you've had a fight with someone and you're feeling quite upset about it. But something in your body that is highly charged that might be causing you some sort of stress. Now I want you to start to think, if you could rank this feeling inside of you, 0 being the absence of the feeling, and 10 being this feeling when it's at its most hectic, the most the feeling can feel, where would you be on the spectrum between 0 and 10? Give yourself a ranking and just tuck it away. This is how I'm feeling now. I will explain that to you later why we're doing that. And now I want you to just bring yourself back to the feeling, and I want you to really feel what it feels like to feel that. You might even feel, I can feel some people are feeling it in their solar plexus, their stomach area at the moment. Some people are in their chest. I can feel a lot of pressure. I want you to just feel that feeling. And when I say we're going to go from the top, I want you to try and remember the pressure points. We're going to start by your eyebrow, and you're just going to start tapping on your eyebrow. Okay, you can keep your eyes closed, then just go to your eyebrow now and start tapping. For it to work, you've got to tap. That's it. So tap. Don't touch it, just tap it. Okay. And while you're tapping, you can say it out loud if you on your own, or if you can't say it out loud, you can just think it. You can say, even though I'm feeling this feeling, whatever this feeling is, so even though I'm feeling so anxious, I can still love and accept myself unconditionally. Now we're going to go to your temple. You can use both hands and you're just tapping on your temple. I am doing the exercise, so you can open your eyes briefly and look at me if you want. But we're going to tap on your temple. And I want you to take a deep breath in and release, deeper and deeper. Keep tapping deeper and deeper. Even though I feel so anxious, put your feeling that you're feeling in there. Even though I feel, I can still love and accept myself unconditionally. Now we're going to under your eye socket, by your nose, by your eye socket here. Just going to tap there. And we're just going to keep breathing and blowing it out. Imagine you're blowing it to the universe. I always think a nice thing is think of you blowing it into a balloon. You're going to blow all that stuff into the balloon. Like an eco-friendly balloon, because we're going to let it go. Under your nose, keep releasing deeper and deeper. Even though I feel anxious, I can still love and accept myself unconditionally. Keep releasing it deeper and deeper. On your chin, in the groove of your chin. That's it. Keep releasing deeper and deeper. Now on the collarbone. Remember, it's on the bone here, right by your throat. Just tapping deeper and deeper. You can do one finger or two fingers, or one hand or two hands. It's up to you. Just keep releasing it. And if you have any thoughts coming in your head, acknowledge them and just release them. and just send positive feelings into your heart. Love, unconditional love, unconditional acceptance. Just see it's almost like the light is just filling up from within you. Blowing out all the negative energy, all the negative stuff, and just all the positive stuff coming in. And now for the boys under the armpit and for the girls on the bra strap. That's it. Just keep releasing deeper and deeper. Loving and accepting yourself unconditionally. I am loved. I am cared for. I am capable. And I am just, the way I am is just beautiful. It's amazing. And now we're going to go on the top of our head in a circle, on the crown of our head. Big, deep breath in. Sure, I can feel a lot of people's stuff has gone down. Okay, you can stop tapping. Now, remember I asked you to rank that feeling. I want you to rank it again. And I want you to see, has it gone down? Has it stayed the same? Or has it gone up? Can some of you give me some feedback as to how you're feeling? For those of you who did the exercise. You can turn your sound on and talk to me. Yeah, everybody had hands just now. Okay.
Ma'am, I have a question. Hello.
First, tell me how you're feeling.
Ma'am,
Snehita, you came up first. Tell me how you're feeling.
I think the heat in my body has released out a bit, and I think I feel better than before.
Do you feel better now?
Yes.
That's amazing. Great. Anybody else feel like it?
Ma'am,
Yes, Don?
ma'am, I am feeling as same.
You're also feeling the same. That's amazing. Great.
No, ma'am, I'm not feeling the same. I am saying
not
that
feeling
I am feeling like as I was feeling.
So you felt the same the way you did beforehand?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What do you think that could have blocked that, Don? What would have stopped you from, is there people around you? Are you feeling very self-conscious?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, you see, so what I would suggest you do, try and do this when people aren't around you. So even if I will send a resource, I'll send you some a video, a YouTube video into the group, the thing where ma'am is, and then she can send it to you guys as a resource where you can have a video of somebody teaching you this, and then you can use it in your time when you're not self-conscious. Because what happens is your brain overrides your feeling, because now we want access to your feeling. Now your brain is stopping me from accessing your feelings. So when I take you into that quiet place, I try and open you up now, and now want access to the feeling, because the feeling is the things that are blocking you. And I want to release and process some of that feeling, so that when you get back online again, you can think, you can feel a lot more calmer, and so your thoughts will be calmer as well. Okay, does it make sense? So a lot of the time, people who struggle with this keep thinking about the feeling. They don't feel the feeling. You've got to feel the feeling in order for you to release it. Otherwise, I'm releasing a thought about the feeling. You can also release thoughts. Sometimes we've got faulty thoughts, and we don't always know that we've released the faulty thoughts until we start to do things differently. And then we're like, wow, that's amazing. Before I used to think like this, and then I would act like that. But now, I don't know, it doesn't seem to be affecting me like that anymore. And so maybe our thoughts start changing as well. So you can tap on thoughts as well. You can tap on a thought, you can tap on a feeling as well. Okay, So that brings me to the end of the presentation. So I'm opening the floor up for questions again. So this can be questions about the first session. It can be questions about the last session. It's all up to you. Somebody said, ma'am, I've got a question.
Excuse me, ma'am, I have a question.
Okay.
Good evening, ma'am. I'm Ashwati from Ramdas International School from Delhi. My question
Hello.
was, you said that symptoms of depression can also be seen in burnout. And what's the difference between burnout and depression?
Okay, so burnout, you're going to have things that are physical, tiredness, you're going to have irritability, you're going to have, can you just give me 1 second? Sorry, somebody's just arrived here. I'm going to just quickly direct them. Just give me 1 second.
Well, my dear children, those who have continuously been here with us last 2.5, more than 2.5 hours, I think you are really finding it an interesting session, and I can see that in your faces. Though we gave you 5 minutes break, but I have not seen any kind of stress, anxiety, and anything among the children. They joined in time. In fact, I was late. So it's good to see, ma'am, that you have kept the entire audience mesmerized.
Thank you. Okay, sorry, somebody was asking me another question.
Ma'am, it was me. I was asking
Okay.
a question.
The
Ma'am,
difference
what
between
should-
anxiety and depression. Sorry, I didn't finish that. So depression, there's what we call DSM criteria. Okay, DSM has 8 criteria that we look for when you have depression. And those are things like feelings of worthlessness, feeling like you want to cry all day, feeling that you want to commit suicide, suicidal ideation, suicidal attempt. Some people attempt suicide. There's other things like feelings of worthlessness. These are all symptoms of depression. And when you look at, if you listen to them, sometimes when you're feeling burnt out, you may also feel those feelings. So you think of a common denominator, it's like they overlap with each other. Depression and burnout overlap with each other. So you can feel depressed and feel burnout at the same time. The two can coexist together. Sometimes burnout manifests as too much anxiety. So you've got anxiety and burnout together. But sometimes you can have depression where you're just feeling like you can't get out of bed. You don't like things that you used to love before, you don't love them anymore. You just want to be left alone. You're crying a lot. Either you don't want to eat at all, or you just want to eat everything in the house. You put on weight or you lose weight, quite a lot of weight. Then that's a sign that you've got depression. And as I say, you can have them together with burnout. Burnout's more a physical thing. So you've got like basically your adrenals, the adrenals in your body, they've been exposed to adrenaline. You know, when you have a fight or flight response, when you are get a fright. If somebody comes to attack you, either you like this, or you like, come, I'll get you. So you have a fight or flight. There's others, fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, but let's go with fight or flight. Your body's in that fight or flight mode all the time. So it's releasing adrenaline, and adrenaline is there to tell you, hey, there's a threat. Get your resources together. We got to get rid of this threat. So some people will get all like me. If somebody comes to threaten, I'm like up there with my fist and I'm ready to tackle. Other people, they just want to curl into a small ball and go away. But the same, their bodies get flooded with adrenaline. Now, what happens when you're in a high stressed condition all the time? It's like you are in fight and flight mode all the time. So your body is constantly pumping adrenaline through your system. Adrenaline and basically stress hormones, we call them cortisol through your body. And over a long period of time, your adrenals, they're the glands in your body that hold that try and process all this stress that you're putting it through, they burn out. They're like, nope, sorry, factory closed, I'm not doing this anymore. And then that's when you start to get exhausted and you can't concentrate and things like that. So when you go to a doctor, most doctors go, they've got 15 minutes for you. Yes, what's wrong? Check. Okay, sounds like depression. Here's a tablet, bye. They don't go, have you been working a lot? Maybe you're suffering from burnout. Maybe you must take some regular breaks. Here's some vitamins to help boost your immune system. Vitamin B is a very good vitamin to take when you're under a lot of stress. So they call we've actually got in South Africa, we've got a vitamin called B stress free, because it's all the B vitamins, B stress free. So they play on that. So things like that will help to cope with stress. Also, you get natural remedies that can help you cope with stress, but doctors don't often do that. They just give you anti-anxiety, antidepressant. So you've got to have a doctor that can sit with you and go, what's wrong? Like, are you working too much? Or like looking at your lifestyle and your circumstances in your life. Have you got a lot of fighting at home, or you're getting too much pressure from parents or work or school, or how are you managing your studies? Like, have a conversation with you. And that's why it's good to work with a psychologist who knows what they're doing and that can help you to process and work through your stress and provide a safe space that you can talk to them. Like if you go talk to your friend and the next thing your friend is telling another friend, and then that friend's telling their mother, and that mother's coming to your mother and telling your mother. No, we don't want that. Whereas with a counselor or with a psychologist, they are bound to keep it confidential. They are not, they can actually get taken, their license can get taken away if they break confidentiality. So you can go to them and they're not allowed to go and have conversations outside of that space. And you've got to make sure of it before. Like I have young people and I explain with the parents sitting there, I say, we're going to work with your child, but you have to understand that what your child talks about here is confidential. If anything happens that I think your child is going to try and commit suicide or harm themselves in any way or harm anyone else, I promise I will come and talk to you. But in the absence of all that, whatever your child says has to be kept here in confidence. I can't have you on the phone. Can you give me an update on my child, please? Because that then is not a safe space for your child. So you got to make sure that the psychologist that you choose is adheres to that. Because otherwise you say, but ma'am, I spoke to the psychologist. She told my mother everything. Everything I told her, I hate my mother, and she go and tell my mother I hate her. And now I'm in big trouble. Now my mother's grounded me for the rest of the holidays. So that's not any good either. So you got to make sure that you can ask the psychologist, is what I say confidential? Will it stay here, or are you going to have a conversation with my parents? So always check that out when you go. Find an emotionally safe space to talk things through. Other questions?
Yes, ma'am. Can I ask
Yes.
a question?
Of course.
Good evening.
Hi.
My question is, how to help someone who's burnt out if we ourselves are burnt out?
Great.
That is so true. Is it a family member? Because then you can organize a family holiday.
Like, we might not be fully burnt out, but then if we are not able to help them, the guilt that comes with it may actually lead to a burnout.
Yeah, you know what the horrible thing is? There's a saying that says you can take a horse to the water, but you can't make it drink. So earlier I told you, if you're in an airplane, the mask comes down, put it on yourself. The only person you've got control over is you. And hopefully when they see you doing better, they'll be like, hey, you're looking so much better. What are you doing? And you can say, well, I actually came to this amazing woman online, and she was telling us about burnout and giving us all these fantastic skills. Maybe I can teach it to you. And then you can teach her and share videos. I also went onto YouTube, and funny enough, I found this video and I found that video. Maybe this will help you. And that's the only thing you can do. You can't control other people. That's the horrible thing. I wish I could. I listen to some people that have been in therapy with me for years. And sometimes we're talking about the same stuff we spoke about 2 years ago. And I'm like, why are we still here? Why have we not got past this point? And some people are just stuck, and we got to respect that that's where they are in their life. And who knows, maybe something miraculous will happen that will unstick them. Maybe they'll try the EFT, the tapping, and this thing. I've seen people who maybe have been sexually abused or something like that, and they've tapped on the wound of sexual abuse, and it's changed their lives completely. So it's very powerful, but you need to do it often, and you'll start to see the impact that it has on you. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Excellent.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Yes,
I have a
ma'am.
question.
Sorry, I have a question.
Krishna.
Prisha,
Yes,
okay.
ma'am. I'm with Krisha. Yeah. So my question was that often when someone experiences burnout and their workplace is like toxic, that if they do really want to take rest and take a break, but they are not able to because the people around them are pressuring them to keep on working, and the workplace is not just allowing them to take a break. So what can someone do in that situation?
I see. You see now the problem comes. Yes, there are lots of workplace, and you can talk and talk and talk we say your kop vrot, your head broken. You can talk and talk and talk, and nothing changes. But then when they come home, then they need to make sure that they have spaces where they can take some time out. So yes, I know when you come home, then you're busy because the kids got to eat and we've got to make this, we've got to do it, but you've got to find time in that space. My family, what we love to do is we have dinner together. And we try and do that because they've all moved out. I'm only with my husband on my own. So we try and come together at least once a week. And on a Thursday night, we all sit there, and that becomes family therapy. we talk about our challenges. We have conversations. Some people say, oh, you're not allowed to talk. Not in my family. We have conversations. We open up. We support each other. We have cried at that table. We have conquered the world from that table, but so much has happened in that space, and that just having that support around you can make the biggest difference. So you've got to find what works for you and take those breaks or take those moments where you can, because sometimes if you look at people who have developed post-traumatic stress disorder versus people who have had a trauma and then carried on with their life, the biggest difference is that they had family support. They had support from, if not their family, their friends or their community or their church or something like that, but they had people around them that were able to support them in their vulnerable state. And then that allowed them the space to process their pain and then to get strong again and carry on. So it is very important to have a good support structure, and then to give, go and play games, have a games evening over the weekend and play a game, charades, or put some on YouTube. They've got karaoke. That's a lovely thing we love to do. We put all the karaoke on YouTube, and then they just play the background, and we sing. We all get together and we sing the songs. So find ways that you can relieve the stress. Go for a walk somewhere, or if it's safe, or exercising together. Have like a group exercise together or something like that. exercise with your friend, but you've got to find the thing that you can do to release the stress, so that it's not just now you come home, now you must work at home until 10 o'clock, then you will lie awake at night because you're stressing about the boss is going to phone you at 6 o'clock and you've got to be at this meeting. Now you can't fall asleep. So you've got to take time out to actually quiet your mind and just de-stress from that space, because that is quite a toxic space. And if you can't get a new job, which is not always possible, it's sometimes you have to learn to manage the toxicity in that space and not allow it to permeate into you, which is a big challenge. It's a big challenge.
Anyways,
does that answer your question, Krisha?
Ma'am, it's a never-ending question session going on, and I'm so
No problem.
Obliged the way you have been dealing with this young generation, and they're also coming up with such wonderful question. How few of them are not even by me, but probably the organizers would like to wind up soon, so we should summarize the entire program, and we will look forward that we will have you once again. This particular session was live on YouTube, ma'am, and I think there are so many people on YouTube who must be having the queries. So we will just post in our numbers, and already Vidya Dan has given a number that everyone who would like to ask more answers, they can just put in their questions forward, and we'll see to it. You know, the stress and the resulting burnout have been called the health epidemic during the 21st century, and the impact had been very, very bad. All the health organizations and everyone is really working hard behind a certain generation. But we, the educationists, have actually forgot to take care of our little young children who had suffered the most. We all know that the smaller children, the underprivileged children could not get a proper education last 2 years. And now after they joined the school, most of the students are either overwhelmed or they are lost of words. They are not able to write. And above all, somewhere we have seen that the impact of burnout is being noticed, not in only the ones who are working in workplaces, but even in schools, because the teachers now, they have to take care of coming to school when they got used to staying at home and doing the housework as well as looking after the kids. I am working with the National Science Talent Search exam, and I've been traveling all across the country, and I've noticed there is a scarcity of teachers now, because most of the teachers who got used to staying at home and teaching are not wanting to mingle with the children because children are all overwhelmed. So anyways, we would be looking forward in getting you again, and we can have a series of such talk with the help of Vidyadan organization. So as the story goes on, that the moderator has to end up with whatever we have actually accumulated with the solution for burnout. So I would like to tell to the audience who have joined us that it's essential to replenish your physical and emotional energy along with your capacity to focus by prioritizing good sleep habits, nutrition, exercise, social connection, and practices that promote equanimity and well-being, like meditating, journaling, and enjoying nature, like ma'am is doing. When she wants to have a me time, her best partners are 3 dogs. And similarly, it's mine also. They are actually my partners on bed too, because they all sleep with me on bed. So well, over the past 40 years, ma'am, I have been in education. And though through various experiences, I was counseling children for the period of more than 25 years. But then I found that no, one needs to know the subject properly. Like you very rightly said, that doctors, after gaining the certificates and after knowing the knowledge, then only they prescribe. So the same thing I also did. I explored into psychology, had a counseling course, and then completed various elements required to be a proper practitioner counselor. So, but in last 9 years, ma'am, I have seen a massive change in the mentality of the students, be it a small child, probably maybe after this new concept of Google Baba has invaded our work, that they don't want to listen to the teachers. We are thinking that probably it's because they know more than us. But do you think that there is something, some kind of an illness among children who feel that they are too tired to write and know while learning? They want everything to be done by its own process. So here, what can we do with the children to convince them to take the proper course of learning the subject instead of just copying the subject? So here is where I have a question to you, that how can we help the children? Another thing I would like to tell all our children and the audience is that there are actually 3 steps which we have to take care of, which will help us for recovery and prevention. I think we need to prioritize our self-care. I think, ma'am, you will agree that what we are talking about last 4 hours is all about self-care, me time, that we have to prioritize. We have to shift our perspectives. Like, we have certain things in our mind, but if by chance we are unable to unable to do that, we need to shift that. And we have to reduce the exposure to anything done forcefully and seek out connections. So that these are the few words which I would like the children to write down, and these will be their takeaways for the today's program. Before I conclude, I would request Michelle ma'am if she would like to convey anything after hearing to our Indian students and Indian children who are from various places like Maharashtra, Andhra Pradesh, West Bengal, Bihar, Jharkhand, that what is the message for these Indian students and how do you find them? In addition to that, I would like to welcome Hasmukhi. She is part of Vidyadan team, and she's the one who has actually taken pains to organize this program with Sir, Prashant Sir. So we would like to welcome these 2 members who are behind the curtain, but actually they are the one who has organized the entire event. And then I would take the opportunity to conclude this program. So over to you, ma'am, or Hasmukhi, if you want to say something.
So I want to just say that the way we get to become burnt out is very complex sometimes. Some of your questions that you're asking me show me that sometimes it's got to do with our family system, it's got to do with our community, it's got to do with other factors, not just schoolwork. But schoolwork is, I mean, your whole life at school is also a major part. So we have to look at the different areas of ourself, how we are developed, you know, our school, our home, our community, our culture, our church, wherever we go and do worship and things like that. We've got to look at all of these factors and how they contribute to creating stress in who we are. The most important thing I want to say that is, if you are feeling burnt out or you're feeling depressed or any of the feelings we touched on, or even something we didn't touch on, it's okay. You don't need to feel shame about it. It's in anything, I would say, I want to encourage you to reach out for the appropriate help that you can get, and not to feel embarrassed or that you should be stronger or you should be able to cope with more. It's okay to feel like that. We all go through it. I've been through it myself numerous times. So the important part is how to manage that, and we can come out of it. Don't feel like the only way you've got to get out of it is by hurting yourself in some way, because the world, who knows, you might be the next person who's going to be making a major, beautiful mark on the world, and now you end up, we lose you because you feel overwhelmed by burnout. So all I'm saying is we'll, whatever the videos are, whatever topics we choose going forward, hopefully you'll come and join us, and as you learn, you can share with your community as well. That's the idea, is to pass it forward, not just for yourself, but to pass it forward to those people in your environment that maybe couldn't be here today.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Hasmukhi ma'am, you would like to say something? You've raised your hand. Your mic. Unmute your mic.
Yeah.
So sorry. It was really wonderful session, ma'am. Thank you so much. We have organized this just to create an awareness about this mental health things, and also you did really well. And I was listening for like 3 hours continuously, so without giving any break. And as a counselor, I just have one question, okay, ma'am. So, how to set a clear boundaries with the clients? Because I used to get a call and also text when around 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the night. Ma'am, I'm so depressed. Can you talk to me for some times? I have some other works. I don't know how to set a clear boundaries. So that was my problem as a counselor. So I just want to know about that.
I think that one's a very difficult one because you often think of if a person's depressed and they don't have anywhere to go, that they might end up committing suicide. So it ends up bringing out almost fear in us that we don't want people to feel alone. But it might be something that you talk to in the session. Talk about their resources, the people that they can turn to when they feel lonely. Maybe they can journal. Journaling is beautiful because when the rumination happens in their head and they're going through things over and over again, often that is what creates the distress. So I always encourage people to journal or, maybe write a song. If it's a young person, write a song or a poem, write a story about what you're going through, and then, keep those things tucked away where they're safe, because there's nothing worse than writing in a journal and your parents read your journal or something like that, or your brother or something like that. So find a place where you can put it in a safe space and just journal and get the stuff out. Also find things that make them happy. Like I used to love music. I used to stand in front of the mirror and sing my heart out to Madonna, and somehow that used to help me in those times. And now even these days, my children love the music that I used to listen to back in the day. They're all, but oh God, I love the song. So find a way, things that you would, that the people that would have you have would feel uplifted, to be able to release some of that stuff in there, because a lot of the time it's getting stuck. It's complicated. I don't have an answer for this. So how can I cope with what I have? Until then. And then one of the things that I would love to do with as a workshop is emotional regulation. Because what is happening a lot with the students is they have these big feelings. The young people have these big feelings and they don't know how to process them. So when we do emotional regulation, we teach them skills, like I did a little bit with the stop, but we teach them skills on how to process some of those big feelings and how to break them down so it doesn't overwhelm them. Because that's often when they end up harming themselves, is because of feeling overwhelmed by their feelings. So if you can, in the counseling session, teach them those skills, so then when you finally get that the question, like I'm feeling depressed, you can say to them, have you tried your journaling? Have you tried this or whatever? And maybe we can talk about it more in our session on the next day or whenever it is. Does that help?
That's great. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And
Thank you so much, ma'am.
We have learned a lot from you to have patience. Just now when she said that 9 o'clock when we are receiving the call and we know we have to give 40 minutes to the person client who is calling up. So I can very well understand that the only one word you have taught us today is having patience. Lot of patience. Yes, lot of patience.
Thank you for having
anyway,
me.
Right now, actually, what we actually wanted to convey to the entire audience and others were that we knew burnout was just for was a job stressor, but actually today in today's scenario, it has become a steady stressor too. So instead of saying it in words and in writing that it's only about job stressors, I could say, I would request the community to mention its educational, it is a steady stressor or any other kind of word which we can appropriately put it for the students who are preparing themselves for various competitive exam and other things to stand up and be with the line of others in the community. So let's come up with a conclusion. Are we ready to wind up this program, Asmuki? Ma'am? Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
ma'am.
So anyways, what we can feel is that burnout can often feel insurmountable, but the sense of being overwhelmed is a signal, not a long-term sentence. By understanding the symptoms and causes and implementing these 4 strategies, which I have just now told you, you can hopefully recover and build a roadmap of preventing your brutal experience at once and can serve as you can say, such a turning point that is going to create a different scenario in your life. I would like to thank all the people who had been with us, who were with us, and who will be with us in future. With this, thank you, Dr. Michelle. We look forward to having you. Bye. Oh my God.
Say bye,
I'm not
everyone.
with my
Bye.
family. Bye. What's his name?
Cody.